And we're starting off with Vince McMahon, as it's been over 5 months since Vince McMahon's return to WWE, which itself came 5 months after McMahon retired from WWE in late July of last year. Since then, McMahon has kept away from tapings for the most part, but has had influence over the shows, which is having quite the effect on the superstars working today. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that when McMahon attended this week's Raw, there were a lot of superstars who were scared and not happy with him being around. With that said, the report adds that the reality is that everyone has come to accept that he is the ultimate decider, and there's little they can do about it, no matter how they may feel. When the Endeavor deal goes through, McMahon will remain in charge, practically for as long as he wishes, as Ari Emanuel has been adamant on keeping the chairman around. As we approach the year since Vince retired for good, the billionaire remains more in control than ever before, and all the superstars from the top to the bottom will just have to get used to that. Next week, AEW Collision will finally launch on TNT, adding 2 more hours of All Elite programming for the fans to consume every single week. The addition of AEW Collision will mean a lot more work for the AEW wrestlers and the production crew, and that may mean the end of AEW House Rules. As Dave Meltzer pointed out in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, there is a belief that AEW will be putting plans on pause for their untelevised shows, which only began in March, if not scrapping the idea completely. While fans have been calling for house shows for years, the tickets for the events had hardly been impressive, and AEW will want to focus on the shows that are being put on TV. It's been reported that AEW's top stars weren't going to be a part of House Rules events, unlike how things go with WWE, which would make any future events difficult to promote. With no future House Rules currently confirmed, these events may already be a thing of the past, as AEW focuses on what happens on TV. For 3 seasons, NBC's Young Rock has given fans a look at the early years of Dwayne Johnson, all the way from childhood to the start of his WWE career. The show's 3rd season is focused on The Rock's arrival in WWE and the dawn of the Attitude Era, but fans won't be seeing a 4th season of the show. This week, it was confirmed that NBC has canceled Young Rock, which had seriously struggled in terms of viewers for the show's 3rd season. While Season 2 averaged 2.23 million viewers and a .39 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, Season 3 was averaging 1.4 million with an underwhelming .25 rating in the coveted demographic. The show gave fans a glimpse into a bygone era of wrestling, and even saw Becky Lynch appear as Cyndi Lauper, but there will be no more Young Rock on NBC after this week's announcement. Now, Seth Rollins captured the World Heavyweight Championship last month, and when a tournament to crown a new champion was announced, Seth was the immediate favorite. WWE selecting Rollins as their inaugural champion is a rare instance of WWE going with the obviously correct choice, as Rollins' popularity is truly undeniable. In a report from WrestleNomics, it is revealed that Rollins is now WWE's top merchandise seller, surpassing the LWO, Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley, and Kevin Owens. While Rollins is the top merch seller overall, the top-selling individual piece of merchandise goes to Ripley, as the She's My Mommy shirt is proving to be a hit with fans of the SmackDown Women's Champion. WWE superstars sell a ton of merchandise, so ranking on top of those sales charts means that big royalty checks are on the way. And based on these stats, WWE were wise to put their faith in Rollins as the new heavyweight champion. When Booker T left WWE in late 2007, stating he was burned out, the former world champion wasted no time in joining TNA, debuting for the promotion just 1 month later. Booker's time with TNA would last 2 years before he left following the Sacrifice 2009 pay-per-view, though he did make a one-night return in 2010. Speaking on his Hall of Fame podcast this week, Booker recalled being excited to join the company, but quickly realized that things wouldn't go as he had hoped, even saying that he is ashamed of what he did at the time. I was trying my best to entertain myself in TNA. When I got to TNA, I really had high hopes to really be able to capture some moments in that company, and after about 2 weeks, I realized none of it was going to happen, so I just started acting a fool. I really did. I really started acting a fool. I'm actually ashamed of myself for some of the stuff I did in TNA. I really am, because I knew I wasn't going anywhere, and I lost my zeal for really going out and performing the way I think I always had before that. When I went to TNA, I felt I had that feeling as far as I'm gonna push these guys to really see exactly how far they could go, because I knew I had some young talent that I could really go out there and maybe create some magic with. Then when none of that happened, I lost my passion just because I knew it was out of my hands. It was out of my control. It wasn't too long after his one-off appearance in 2010 that Booker returned to WWE in the 2011 Royal Rumble match, and he's never even hinted at so much as a one-off return to the now Impact Wrestling. Booker T didn't state any specific segments or matches he's ashamed of, but they've clearly had a lasting effect on the Hall of Famer, who won't be going back to watch his TNA run anytime soon. Later this month, AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling will team once again for their second annual Forbidden Door show, promising the very best from both promotions in cross-branded action. We all know that the show will feature talent from AEW and New Japan, but now a third promotion could be about to get involved. Fightful Select reports that there have been talks about New Japan's sister promotion Stardom getting involved, as the all-female Japanese promotion has plenty of talented stars on its roster. It's worth stating that the reigning AEW Women's World Champion has competed for Stardom in the past, so she knows all about the company, but a booking conflict will limit who could appear at Forbidden Door. On June 25th, Stardom will host their Sunshine event from Yoyogi National Gymnasium in Tokyo, Japan, and it'll be virtually impossible for anyone booked for that show to make it to Toronto the same day for Forbidden Door. It was ahead of last year's show that AEW and Stardom had talks about a Forbidden Door match that ultimately fell through, and time will tell if things are different when AEW, New Japan, and possibly Stardom convene in Toronto. One name who could be competing at Forbidden Door is CM Punk, who is due to make his return to TV next week, something many feel shouldn't be happening. After everything at All Out, what transpired on Punk's Instagram, and the recent issues between himself and AEW over Ace Steel, many feel that Punk is too toxic for AEW and will do more harm than good. Speaking on WrestleBinge, Billy Gunn was asked for his take on Punk's return, and while many feel the Chicago-made star is toxic, Gunn doesn't see it that way. Some people are gonna think it's negative. I think it's a positive thing, I really do, because he's still, no matter what goes on behind the scenes, he's still got it, right? He's still the guy. I don't feel he's as toxic as everybody thinks he is, but then again, I'm an old person, and I really don't care about all that other stuff. All I care about is what he can do for the company. He's just gonna help the company all around. He's gonna help the talent on the Collision show or whatever. I mean, when the single guy can sell out Chicago arenas, yeah, I'm gonna say you might want to keep him around a little bit. But what personality's on the other side, sometimes you gotta set that aside. Whether Punk is helpful or harmful in the months to come, only time will tell. But do you think Punk and others will be able to set their egos aside for the good of AEW? Or will we eventually see a repeat of the events that transpired last September at All Out? SmackDown news now, as this week's show saw Asuka being awarded a new Women's Championship title, but that wasn't the only development for the women's division. During the show, NXT Women's Tag Team Champions Alba Fire and Isla Dawn were being interviewed by Kayla Braxton, but the recently called-up team were interrupted by Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. The WWE Women's Tag Team Champions told Fire and Dawn that there isn't room for two sets of Women's Tag Champions, and after Fire and Dawn agreed, a brawl quickly broke out. It was confirmed later in the show that a title unification will take place on the June 23rd episode of SmackDown, which shouldn't come as too much of a surprise to fans. After all, WWE had made no effort to explain the future of the NXT Women's Tag Team titles when Alba Fire and Isla Dawn were drafted to SmackDown, and we'll have to see who ends this month as the undisputed WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. And we're ending with Friday Night SmackDown, as the fans at this week's show got a very special treat after the show. This week's show saw tensions continue in the Bloodline and their story with Jey Uso, and took place in Des Moines, Iowa, so it makes sense that one of the favorite sons of the Hawkeye State showed up. After SmackDown went off the air, Iowa's own Seth Rollins made a surprise appearance and put his World Heavyweight Championship on the line against Damian Priest. The crowd were ecstatic to see Rollins put his title on the line, and like we saw on Raw, it was Seth who got the win to keep his reign going. After the match, Rollins got a welcome home chant from the crowd and said he was immensely proud to be the World Heavyweight Champion. It was certainly a good homecoming for Rollins, who is no doubt planning on still being the World Heavyweight Champion the next time WWE returns to his home state of Iowa.